Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Hello and welcome to the Women Today podcast, a look back at some of our highlights. And this week we found out about a new psychological counselling service for anyone who's been impacted by a breast cancer diagnosis. It's a result of a collaboration between two charities. It's going to be a great service. It's starting at the beginning of September, and you can find all the details on the Women Today Facebook page. Also this week we got crafty with Sue Quilliam, probably less crafty than we thought we might be. We're not terribly artistic, but she is insistent that anyone can be, so we were learning some new skills. And we also met the local author of the Manx Connections series. But first, we had a very special guest presenter at the start of the week.
Bring Women Today. Click citywing.com.
First of May, it's 6 minutes past 2, and this is Women Today with me, Christy DeHaven, and
Sean Sternick.
You're not a woman, Sean.
I'm not.
Don't tell anyone. We've lost Beth. She's away. And so, I thought, who better to come on the show and co-present with me for the next couple of days? And I thought you.
Oh, why me?
You're very entertaining, Sean. So you're going to be...
Hey, I'll have you know, I have some serious women credentials.
Go on, tell me about your credentials then.
My credentials... I come from a long line of matriarchs.
Wonderful.
Yes, very, very powerful women. And I was one of 6 men at an all-women's university.
Wow. I remember us talking about this when you were on the show last time, actually.
Yeah.
You coped very well, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you managed to get through it. Well, you're going to be with us over the next couple of days, so we're very excited to have you. It happens all the time. 2 people very much in love make a commitment to each other in front of friends and family with a joyous anticipation of a life spent together, sharing and shouldering highs and lows, maybe have a family. At this moment, all over the world, many, many thousands of people are celebrating their own marriage. In the US alone, almost 6,500 people get married every day. But when a couple got married in Ramsey this weekend, it made history. Luke Corrine married Zach Tomlinson at a civil ceremony at Ramsey Town Hall. Civil partnerships have been converted since the law was changed on the Isle of Man last month, but this was the first official gay marriage on the Isle of Man.
I promise to love you and cherish you
until death do us part.
Until death do us part.
Both work in Manchester. We wanted to come home, obviously get married here. So it just means the world to us that it's finally been passed, and then we finally got married, and now we're actually husbands.
Yeah. And surrounded by family and friends.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to read that. I just think the Isle of Man has come so far in such a very short space of time. And Sean, this is a story in particular that you wanted to bring up today.
Oh yeah. Well, I know Luke and Zach. I knew them better when I lived up north. But I know them when I saw the article. I mean, pardon me. I just wanted to give them a big shout out. So congratulations, Luke and Zach. That's great. and actually, a shout out as well to Mark and Alan Stephen Cowell, because last week what's the word?
They converted their
civil partnership
yeah.
to a gay marriage as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I almost used the word upgrade, but the whole point but that's just it. The whole point is that the Isle of Man is being a bit more progressive than even the UK, because the civil partnership and marriage are on equal standing now, both gay or straight or whatever. Mm-hmm. Couples can choose between the two. So I wanted definitely to say congratulations to all involved. But I'll tell you what I really liked most about the article when I read it was the amount of space given over to Alan Shea. Because
this was an article that was in the Guardian, wasn't it?
Yes, this was the Guardian article. He, was it 91, 92, made a petition for redress at Tynwald, because up to that point, homosexuality was illegal.
I know, it's just crazy to think about,
insane,
isn't it?
Really insane. But he did this, and I can only imagine the courage it must have taken him to be so visible in what this article describes as a very hostile openly
extremely
hostile. Yeah,
some of the quotes
society.
and comments that were taken directly from recordings from the day, in fact, that Alan was up there are just shocking, and it just makes me quite ashamed in a way that I was here when that was all happening. But there was a wonderful interview with Alan actually in Mandate earlier, so if you'd missed it, I highly urge you to go back. I had a lovely chat with Alan about the whole situation. But it's just wonderful to see, and especially as we were talking about as well, the idea that lots of television programmes have now covered this and sort of made the idea of sort of gender fluidity a bit more open as well, haven't they? So it's not just about the idea of same-sex marriage and being couples. It's everything really that's changing, isn't it?
It really is. The whole. I mean, this decade, so far feels to me like it's been all about social change in that respect. We had that Netflix show Transphobia, Caitlyn Jenner's very, very public, what do you call it, coming out?
I suppose. Yeah.
And so in a way, sort of like that whole liberal conservative social values battles kind of shifted now from, gay marriage is passé, right? I mean, no, still congratulations guys, but now it's all about, the bathroom bill in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And what I was most encouraged by in all of this, this made me think back to a class I was recently teaching with some A-level lit kids. And for them, this conversation, I don't know, you may discover that I tend to digress. Make that motion of reel it in, Sean. But during this class, in the digressing conversation, they started talking about how gender identity is not really such a big deal for them. And I thought, oh, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. There's a generation coming up who accept it and accept what fluidity of gender is something that's just kind of obvious, and all in all, it gave me a whole new respect for Miley Cyrus and her effect on our impressionable youth.
I'm not sure I can still respect Miley Cyrus, but I do think that it's quite amazing. Pippa, you were nodding there. Do you think that students up at the college, do you notice there's a sort of difference in the way people approach these issues now?
It's quite interesting that things that were very important for my generation aren't. And it is refreshing when they talk about it, and or don't, actually. That's the thing. They don't talk about it.
Because it's not a deal.
Because it's not
That's
a deal.
Thing. Yeah.
And that is very refreshing. But we still have all the old issues going on in the background despite that. But some of these things are massive, and they are huge changes.
First met our studio guest briefly last week as she was felting some knickers to throw at Tom Jones. I'm joking. Sue Quilliam, you weren't really, but we did meet you when we were out and about. Yeah, you could have done. People did actually throw knickers. I will get over this, and I will, stop.
Did they?
Yeah. We were right at the front. Did you not
threw
see
a Welsh dragon. I didn't notice people had actually thrown pants.
Yeah, somebody went off with an armful of pants.
Oh my word.
Anyway, Sue Quilliam is our guest. You didn't make any pants though to throw at Tom Jones. Lovely to have you here. Thank you very much for coming into the studio. When we did speak to you last week, you were talking about Make Market, a creative industries takeover. Now that was launched at the Market Hall in Douglas at the weekend. There are events happening all through the summer. How have the first few days of that been?
Great. Yeah, it was great. The place is wonderful. I think I had 20 different crafters and artists and sculptures and for the launch for the weekend, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. So we had people coming in all 3 days. It was wonderful. It was really good. Yeah.
And it's a real mix of music. There's so much going on.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of great friends who are really supportive of all of the creative industries, and they always step up. So we had Ruth Kegan and Matt Kelly and Leigh Brooks and Greg Jochen and Hilary, and there was so many, Krista, the Factones. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was really wonderful.
We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Sue, as your accent gives away, you are originally from Birtley, which is near Durham. I just wondered what little Sue wanted to be when she grew up.
I wanted to run away with the gypsies.
Did you really?
Yeah. I used to go to Plessy Woods and hope they would take us away. But I don't know. I don't think growing up in the late 60s, you thought much about what you wanted to be when you grew up. I think we went to school and we were going to go to work, and I think I don't think I thought a lot then. Certainly not as much as I do now. But I wanted to be an air stewardess, which I did for a week on a training thing.
Did you pass the test, or did you just decide it wasn't for you?
No, I did. I did pass, but then I ended up working in Teengy Allen as learning to be a book buyer. I wanted to learn how to learn about books.
This
it
is
was a real old bookshop.
Because you love reading but hate writing, is that true?
Yeah. That's because I think I went to a convent school, and most of the English was to do with religion, and then when I went to a primary school, the grammar, stuff like that I'd missed out on. And I didn't think it was that important anyway at the time. No, I hate writing. Hate it.
I'm intrigued about the gypsy thing. What was it about being a gypsy that interested you? What was it about their life?
I don't know. I think it's in my soul. I still do. I love the festivals. I've got 2 campers. I've had loads of campers. Outdoors. And of course, you know, the romantic, the gypsy life,
kind of freedom of it,
yes,
I suppose.
Yes, it's all that magic, isn't it? It's all the myths and legends and dragons and gypsies.
And you were saying earlier that you do retreats, so craft retreats. I mean, what do you think people really get out of this, particularly if they're not necessarily a very artistic person?
It's just a lovely, relaxing day in a beautiful place, and they will be surprised at how artistic they are, actually. Nothing's difficult and everything's relaxing.
What guarantee have I got that what I make would end up looking anything similar to what you've made?
Well, if you can have more than 100%, then you've got that. You can make everything there.
Really?
Absolutely everything, yeah.
Really?
And more, yeah.
I always think of that Pinterest thing, nailed it. When you'd have a picture of Sue's beautiful creation and mine looking a bit like a dog's dinner.
No, I've got a Facebook page and every picture of everything anybody's ever made is on it. And not everyone, but a lot of the people have never thought in a million years they could have produced what they produced and took home.
It's really important, you were saying when we were talking about this last week, to keep arts like this going, because we do live in a very throwaway society, and people don't tend to be, I suppose, that bothered about the quality of the things that they have and even where they've come from. Why do you think it's so important?
I'm passionate about the arts. I'm passionate about crafts and arts in schools, and I'm passionate that we keep a future on the island for my grandchildren and all of the other little children. I go around a lot of the schools, and in a lot of areas where schools come through my daughters, and I can see the pleasure that children get from this creativity. And if we don't support the creativity on the Isle of Man, then we might lose it. So many people came to the market hall and reflected on when there was a market in the market hall. And so now we created this market in the market hall, but we need to invest in that. We need those people to be supported financially and with all of their arts and crafts, and get people to, step up and buy local and look out for what's homemade.
Now, today is the 43rd anniversary of the Summerland fire. 50 people were killed and many more injured or left traumatised when the massive blaze broke out at the Douglas Centre in 1973. At 7:30pm this evening, there will be a commemoration for the men, women and children who lost their lives. I spoke to Tina Brennan at the weekend. Tina has organised this evening's event, and she has also organised Saturday night's memorial concert, which is happening at the Peel Centenary Centre. What is the reason why you specifically wanted to do it? Do you have some connection to the fire?
Well, apart from the fact that I stood and watched it when I was 19 on the cliffs above the MER depot.
Gosh, that must have been a thing to see.
It was horrific to see, and it always stays with me. And I know it's stayed with thousands of people here in the Isle of Man because I've spoken to them. Well, not thousands, but hundreds of people. And I've always been surprised at their connections with it. And it's always something I wanted to do, but I've always waited for somebody else to step up. And nobody ever has. And I know there's been elected representatives or whatever that have decided against doing anything. But this was a huge deal on an international scale. Can you imagine, God forbid, if this happened today? This would be a worldwide event, and something so horrific, it just doesn't even bear contemplating, really. Every year I thought, this will be the year somebody will do a commemoration, and they never have. So I thought, well, I'm getting a bit long in the tooth now, so maybe I better, step up and do something. So after the 40th commemoration, I thought, right, we're going to do it. So we do the concert, and like I say, this is the third one now, and we also do a 1-minute silence on the promenade on the anniversary, which this year is this Tuesday coming. If anybody wants to come down, please do. It's nothing formal. We just have a 1-minute silence. This year, we've got the Ellen Vannon Pipes and Drums coming down to play as well.
Oh, brilliant. Presumably not while the silence is happening.
No, just after the silence. So I'm very grateful to them for coming to do that.
Sponsors of Women Today.
You are listening to Women Today. It's just coming up to 2:43 now. Now, my guest in the studio today is an author who is very proud of his Manx connection. It is Graham Hamer. Thank you for joining us again. It's lovely to have you.
Well, thank you for inviting me on, Christy.
And we were talking before about the Summerland fire, and you actually have very distinct memories of it, don't you?
I do. I was the chief cashier in Summerland the first year that it opened, and it was a fabulous place. The one that was rebuilt after the fire was a little bit of a metal box, but the original Summerland was just an incredible, amazing place. At the time, it was I believe I'm right in saying it was the largest indoor entertainment complex in Europe. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's been exceeded since, but it had bars and restaurants and shows and a cliff face with parrots flying round, and it was an absolutely fabulous place, and it did the island a lot of good. Sadly, it only ran for that first year and then a little bit afterwards.
Yeah,
and it was tragic when that went.
And you weren't actually there though when the fire happened?
No, I'd gone back to Norfolk from where I came, and I was driving down the road one night and I heard it on the radio, and I had to stop the car. Mm-hmm. I really just couldn't handle thinking about well, I knew there'd be loss of life. It was just too obvious, but just the whole thing, it hurt. It really, really hurt.
And you said as well that even the chap that took your job, unfortunately, he did lose his life.
I'm afraid, yes. He perished in the fire. Yeah.
Well, we've just had a message in from someone who said, I saw the Mayor of Douglas, who was a firefighter at the disaster, laying a wreath at the Summerland Memorial this morning.
Good.
So again, if you would like to go down there and take part in that memorial service, it's this evening at 7:30pm. Meet at the walkway across the road from the Summerland site. Now, Graham, you are here, of course, today to talk to us about your books.
So I've been told. Yeah.
Yes. Now, why are you so keen to include the Isle of Man in your books? Because they feature very strongly. They're almost like an additional character. The island's like an additional character, isn't it, really, in your books?
I'm Manx.
Mm-hmm. And is that the only reason?
That's it. Once you do fall in love with the song. I was chatting to Sean actually before the show, and Sean's been here 5 years, he tells me. And in that time, you start to... The Isle of Man grows on you. There's a fondness for the island, a real fondness for it. And I think we're so lucky on the Isle of Man in so many ways. Where's the graffiti? There isn't any.
Or if there is, it's very good.
But it's not. It's not so obvious. And where we live in France, there's graffiti everywhere. Where's the violent crime?
But this is an interesting thing, though, because your books, I would describe, we were just talking about the genre before, I think, Sean, you suggested gentle thrillers, maybe. But there is crime, there is violence,
sure.
And a lot of it's taking place on the Isle of Man. Is that your way to sort of make the island slightly more exciting?
Well, if I wrote about what actually happened on the Isle of Man, I'd get half a book out of it, probably. No, you've got to invent characters and scenarios and situations, and maybe, just maybe, to the people who live over here and know the Isle of Man, it's actually adding an element of interest to the Isle of Man. Yeah. Actually, that could happen.
So also in the one I'm reading, there's very strong female characters, and I'm interested to know, as a man, how you go about writing an authentic female voice.
How authentic are they, Christy?
I feel like they're very authentic.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't know. This is the point. As a writer, I have their conversations going on in my head. So I've got these two women, or sometimes three women, speaking to each other, and I'm trying to figure out how their conversation would run. Now, my own way of speaking is not the way they would speak, and I have to try and invent it, but keep it realistic. That one's quite tough. I find it much easier when I'm doing men. much more simple.
Do you spend a lot of time earwigging women's conversations then?
No, not really, no. No, when I hear women talking, I usually
Isn't that
walk
called
away.
eavesdropping or stalking?
Yeah. I get
Maybe in your world, Sean.
I get to the kitchen and make the coffee.
So our studio guests, though, today are programme leaders from the freshly rebranded Isle of Man College, which is now the University College of Man. Is that right? I got that right, yeah. Welcome to Pippa Edmonds, and also we have Judith Crane with us today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
We mentioned the name change, which is one thing. Also, the college is now affiliated with the University of Chester, isn't it? What kind of difference has that made?
Well, the college has been affiliated with the University of Chester for some years. We have been running degree programmes for, I'm not quite sure how many years now, but in the business area we've been running an accountancy degree, a business degree, and very recently an events management and marketing degree through the University of Chester. And we work very closely with them. We get to go and work with them and talk to them about the development of the degrees, which is an exciting part of working with another institution.
Yeah, and so does that mean that if you do one of these degrees on the Isle of Man, you're getting exactly the same thing as what you would get if you do it in at the University of Chester?
Exactly. It's a University of Chester degree, but taught on island by island-based lecturers.
Fantastic. So, Pippa, just tell us a bit about both of your roles. So what is it you do at the college?
I'm the programme leader for the Business Studies degree, which has a name change this year, becomes Business Management degree. And my role is to coordinate the degree, the experience the students have within my area, and to do the communication with Chester. For us, the practicalities of the rebranding to University College of Man is not going to have a huge difference with what we're actually delivering, because what we deliver is going to be the same. One of the benefits we have here is we're a small institution, so we have a very close relationship with our students, and it's all about the students. We don't get the students, we don't exist, so everything we do is trying to be structured around the students and make it good for them.
And do you think it gives them a little bit more sort of impetus, knowing that they're, even just by name, that they're at a university? Does it, the grander nature of it?
They love the idea. Talking to the students when we first announced the rebranding, they love the idea it's University College of Man. So they're going to have a degree now from the University College of Man and the University of Chester, and they just love the whole University College of Man idea. They really do.
I bet. And Judith, you're a programme leader as well. What is your area of expertise?
I'm programme leader for the accounting and finance degree, and I also look after the MBA programme as well, so a dual role at the moment.
And so you both presumably have quite established backgrounds in both of these areas. Did you both work in these areas before you were teaching?
We did, and that's one of the things we have in common with all our lecturers. I'm a chartered accountant by trade. I've worked in many different businesses. I've worked in different educational institutions as well. And so we have very real hands-on knowledge. And at the moment I'm working full-time, so my whole focus is on my students and being at the nunnery, which is where we're based. Judith, however, has a slightly different background.
Yeah, I'm born and brought up on the Isle of Man, and went away to university, did a degree in accounting and qualified as an accountant. So I'm one of those boring accountant people, but I like to think I'm not really that boring. And I went into working at the Isle of Man College after doing a part-time teaching qualification at the college. So I've been working in education now for about the last 16 years, I think it is. But I still, at the moment, work one day a week in an accounting practice that my husband and I run. So I'm still keeping my links with the businesses out there who are looking for accounts and tax returns and all of those exciting things that we have to do. So as well as the teaching. So it's quite good. I've got a foot in both camps still.
Absolutely. Now, of course, it is supposedly summer holidays right now, which, you know, Sean, as well as a teacher, will know about this. Does that mean you're essentially off now? You've got nothing to do?
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Now we swan around and we drink tea and have lunch.
It's not true
for the next 8 weeks.
No, no, not at all. In fact, our colleague Sharon was going to be with us this afternoon, but she's actually interviewing prospective students as we speak. So, yeah, there's always something that has to be done for planning, recruiting, etc. So it's not exactly 6 months or 6 months. That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Oh,
6
that'd be
weeks
great.
of doing nothing.
Sign me up.
There's always something to be done.
And Sean, you know very much about this because you're supposed to be on some holidays at the moment, but you're not either because you're actually involved in this, aren't you?
Well, actually, I'm one of the
students.
Well, I just finished the Cert Ed program at the University College Isle of Man, and I just got my certification in the post.
So you passed?
Yes.
Yay,
yes, I passed.
Well done.
Now, being told you have got cancer must be one of the hardest things to hear, and then to embark on a course of treatment while still digesting that news makes it even more difficult. And that is why 2 local charities are coming together to offer psychological counselling for people who've been diagnosed with breast cancer. These sessions are going to start at the beginning of next month. It's a result of a partnership between Manx Cancer Help and the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group. And to find out more, we're joined live in the studio by the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group Chair, Julie Stokes. Now, Julie, you've been through the ordeal of being told you've got cancer. Can you put into words what that is like for us?
It's terrible. It really is. Your whole world falls apart within minutes, and some people cope with it better than others. Some people can get to grips with it quite quickly, and other people never do.
And it's not something now that the fear of cancer is possibly diminishing because, thank goodness, treatment is so much better, but that fear element is still there.
I think cancer, the word just scares the life out of everybody. It does really. Like I say, some people deal with it better than others. Yes, it's great. More people survive cancer and more people come to terms with having cancer. But some people do need that extra help.
Now, we are also joined by the CEO of Manx Cancer Help, Andrea Chambers, this afternoon. Andrea, just first of all, just give us an overview of what Manx Cancer Help is all about.
Well, we offer psychological support to anybody who's given the awful news, as you just described, of being told they've got cancer, which, as Julie said, turns your life upside down. In a minute, you've got going along just living your life as we all are, with all your normal hopes and dreams and aspirations, and suddenly, out of the blue, you're told you've got cancer, which is life-changing, if not life-threatening. And so for some people, that's a huge blow and extremely difficult to deal with.
And
Not everybody.
How does talking about it help, would you say?
Well, talking about it allows people to express their fears, which if you keep all of that bottled up, it's very difficult. But it's not just talking that we do at Manx Cancer Help. Our clinical psychologist actually finds a way for people to find coping strategies, so ways. We can't change the outcome or the diagnosis, but we can change the way that people think about it and learn to deal with their life moving forward.
Well, also with us this afternoon is Karen Wagstaff, who's the Secretary of the Breast Cancer Support Group. Karen, thank you for being here. Just tell us, first of all, how you got involved with the support group.
Well, I myself was diagnosed 7 years ago, so I too have been through what Julie's described, really. And yeah, it's it just turns your world upside down.
And what got you through it?
My family, really. My family were fantastic. They all rallied round, they were all there for me. However, it does affect family members, and one of my family members in particular did seek the help of Manx Cancer Help, and it was phenomenal.
So, Julie, these psychological counselling sessions, which we'll be talking about in more detail later, how did you come to a point to think this is what we needed to have over here?
We were approached by Andrea and Lottie from Manx Cancer Help. I mean, obviously they offer that service already to people, but we thought that it would be better to put it into the breast unit. I mean, our whole aim with the breast unit is that we offer the best possible service that we can. So, these sessions will be offered in the breast unit 1 day a week.
Now, this service is going to be run by Dr. Lottie Morris. We had Lottie on the show at the start of last year when she first came over. Just tell us a little bit about her, Andrea.
Well, Lottie's been with us, which should be 2 years in October. She qualified in Bath University, and she's a doctor of... she's a clinical psychologist. She's a great person, great character, and very innovative and brilliant clinical psychologist. You know, we have such positive feedback from everybody who's worked with her, who finds her easy to talk to, easy to relate to, hugely professional, which is the most important thing, and a delight, I would like to say.
And Karen, when it comes to people talking and seeking help in this regard, I mean, is there a time limit on it? Do you have to have had a recent diagnosis?
Absolutely not, no. It can affect people at all different stages. It can affect the patient at the time of diagnosis. It can affect the family at the time of diagnosis. Sometimes the family don't want to talk to the person who's been diagnosed simply because they don't want to upset them anymore. They don't want to, go down that road. So to go and talk to someone who's completely neutral is what it's all about for them. And, it gives them so much comfort. I think the other thing is that as time goes on, sometimes people bottle things up, and within maybe 3-4 years, they suddenly realise, actually, I haven't dealt with that very well, and I need some help now. And that's what this will do.
And in terms of a collaboration between charities, Andrea, I mean, it's a great show of strength and of what can be achieved when charities with the same aim work together.
Absolutely, there are a lot of charities, cancer charities, also on the island, and it's lovely to work together. We're all working for the same aim, which is helping people through the most difficult time in their lives. So if we can do that together and make the experience easier in any way, then that's what we should be doing.
So Julie, just go through again for us who is going to be eligible for support in this.
Anybody who's having a problem, anybody who just isn't. I mean, Karen was talking earlier about your family and your friends being very supportive. That's we've got to remember there are some people out there who haven't got any family. They're alone. They're faced with this, and it's horrendous. And as Karen said, it goes on for years because you're forever. You've always got the worry of, am I going to get it again? Is it going to come back? What's going to happen next? And people also are living with the effects of the treatment that they've had, to cure the cancer. Sometimes that can go on and that can give them problems as well. So,
has to be an outlet, doesn't there?
There has to be.
Yeah. And actually about 40% of the clients we see at Manx Cancer Help are family members. So the service would be available not just to the person who's got the illness, but anyone who loves them. Because, as Karen said, it's incredibly difficult for those people too.
I think it does, yes. I mean, this hasn't surprised us at all. We are very indebted to lastminute.com for putting this research together and underpinning what naturist people across the UK already know. There are a lot more people getting involved. We're getting over our hang-ups. We're realising that there's some great health benefits to sunbathing and swimming without any clothes on. And why shouldn't we? Let's get over those Victorian values and realise that we're now in the 21st century.
Now, what sort of figures are we talking about here about people who are actually deciding, you know what, I'm just going to throw those clothes off and just go naked?
Exactly. We're talking about 59% of Brits considering going on a naturist holiday or sunbathing in the Buff or visiting a naturist beach. And when you say considering, I'm sure that a hell of a proportion of that have already done it and realised what a lovely thing it is. I mean, we're British Naturism, a volunteer organisation that sells memberships and provides services. You can see bn.org.uk for the details. And we're finding lots and lots of people in the summer come and join us. And when you ask them how they found us, they say, we found a beach on holiday, never expected to go nude, saw everybody without their clothes on, thought that it looked like a wonderful, relaxing thing to do, took our trunks off, stripped off our bikinis, and we've thrown them away. We don't need them anymore.
So presumably then it's quite liberating, but maybe the first time you do it, there must be an element of self-consciousness there as well.
I think you're absolutely right. Of course there must be. You take yourself out of that context that you're normally wearing your clothes. You've never been naked in public before. There is this stigma, this whole taboo about our private parts. Of course there is, but I hear it time and time again. It's going to sound like a cliche, but 15 minutes in, you forget you have no clothes on and you forget that you're surrounded by people that have no clothes on because it becomes the norm. The funny thing is, shortly after that period of time, somebody else arriving on the beach with their clothes on makes you do a double take.
So if you are in an area where other people do have their clothes on, so perhaps it's not necessarily a specified nudist area, you do have to be a little bit sensitive, don't you, to those around you who may not be quite as liberal as you are?
I think it depends on where you are. I mean, in the UK, there is no legislation that tells you what you can or can't wear in any circumstance. And there is convention that we all do abide by. You know, there's a certain dress code for going to work. And if I go to a job interview, I'll make sure I've got my suit on, a black tie if I go to a funeral. But sometimes clothes are not essential, and sometimes it's nice not to wear them. It would be wrong of us to say that there are no problems and sensitivities, but at the same time, we mustn't make the assumption that everybody who's on that beach who isn't naked is going to be horrified and shocked. You go somewhere like the Canary Islands, and in fact, they don't need any kind of rules or designation or discussion about it, because you do as you choose. And I have been on beaches in Fuerteventura where I've been next to a clothed few people, and then a little further along the sand there's a few naked people, and then there's a girl who's just topless, and everybody coexists because it's about your comfort level.
So you don't find that sometimes you might have sort of families who are sort of moving away a little bit and going, no, let's go sit over here?
No, I don't think so, because, you know, in this country, I think it's very clear where those naturist places are. And generally speaking, naturist people understand the sensitivities, Christy, and they don't go somewhere where there's going to be other people because they like being with like-minded people. But it's interesting. Let me just challenge you and say how interesting it is that you've talked about a family. You've said it's a family that's moving away. There is this presumption that somehow, you know, nakedness is not for children, and we take the opposite view. We need to let our children see a lot more nudity because they grow up in this air of mystery, not really knowing what's happening to their bodies, and that has contributed very badly to the body image problem that I'm sure you agree is right across the nation at the moment, with people feeling very bad about themselves when in fact there's nothing wrong with them.
Absolutely. In fact, when we were talking about Naked Attraction on the show earlier this week, and the resounding response in the studio was, we should be so much more comfortable with being naked. But I suppose the problem with that show is that they're judging you when you're naked, which is, I think, is probably quite a negative thing. But
it is suggesting that we only choose our partners on the basis of what they look like without clothes on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm interested in personality and tone of voice and all sorts of different things, you know.
But it's interesting how confident you talk about it here, because there is something in this research that suggests that more than a third of people who are nudists would keep it secret. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a problem. You know, I've said quite a few times, and let me say it to you. Do you know anybody? Now, I know you and I have just become firm friends, but do you know anybody who's a naturist?
No, I don't actually, no.
Well, I think that's wrong. You do, but you don't know that they are, because too many of our people do keep it quiet. And I respect that. I understand the stigma, the taboo, the Victorian values. But of course, the thing is, the longer that you keep something secret, the more secret it becomes. So I think people are worried that people are going to think that they're perverted, or they're weird, or they're eccentric, or they're strange, or it's ridiculous and silly. And particularly if they've got some job where they need to have some credibility. And that's all rubbish. I mean, I've been out. I don't like to use the phrase out, but, you know, since I took on this role that I perform these days, and I've never had any trouble. In fact, people are intrigued and interested. So I encourage anybody listening now who is a naturist person who doesn't tell anybody, go and tell them, because they'll actually be quite proud of you.
And there probably are plenty of people out there who have in some way been naturists but not really aware of it, because there's plenty of people out there who will go out on a beach party or something and end up skinny dipping, isn't there?
Absolutely right. Skinny dipping is something we've all done. Have you?
Yes, I have actually.
and how was it?
Great fun. Feels fantastic.
It absolutely does. Keep an eye out later this year. We've got a big skinny dipping event that's coming up, so we want people to get involved. But you're right, you know, and there is this idea. People say to me all the time, what is a naturist? I say, well, I don't really know. You know, everybody will give you a different view, and there's a whole load of people, just in the way that you described, that are quite happy doing things in the nude that would never consider themselves to be naturists. You know, I am. I want to be known as a naturist. I'm a card-carrying naturist. I don't know quite where I put my card when I'm carrying it, but, you know, that's how I am. And I will seek out those naturist experiences, particularly when I go to beaches on holiday. You know, I'm not just considering going, I'm doing it for years. But there will be people that will find those beaches, or have the beach party, or sit in a hot tub with friends, or all sorts of things, you know, doing it nude and not necessarily calling it by its name of naturism. And there's many, many more thousands, millions of those people than we perhaps imagine.
There is that age-old adage, isn't there? We are all naked under our clothes, and that's something that maybe we should all remember.
We should. Absolutely right.
So if anyone is hearing this and thinking, do you know what, I think I'll just go bare all, where can they find out more?
OK, they need to go to bn.org.uk. That's the British Naturism website. All sorts of information there about clubs and swims, about events, about holidays, about all the things that are going on. It's a very, very vibrant scene across the UK. Lots of initiatives, lots of events. Fantastic community. I mean, I'm not saying that other communities aren't as strong. Whatever you do in your private life, it's nice to mix with people that feel the same. But a lovely community, very, very welcoming. And you just, final statement almost. It is about having your naked body exposed to other people, but actually it isn't when you get there. So go and give it a try and find out what it's all about.
Thank you so much for downloading the Women Today podcast. As ever, we would love to hear from you. If you've got a suggestion about a guest we should get on the show or something that we should be talking about, please do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. womentoday@manxradio.com if you want to drop us an email, or you can message us via the Women Today Facebook page. And we're on Twitter as well. It's @MR Women Today. But until next time, goodbye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.